Hold on.
Counsel, you can't.
Why? So I can look like you?
Minutes and pennies to convert is readily converted.
Hi, everybody. I gotta wait a second because I've been told to wait so you can start recording. I will just get it out of the way right now. If you know me from YouTube and you want me to get a haircut, no.
MagTech is the only pistol or rifle ammo I use on the range, and I recommend them highly. I've seen their manufacturing and quality control firsthand, and it's incredible, which is why it always performs reliably and accurately. They are operating at max capacity and cranking out rounds for you to keep your skills sharp. Pick up some MagTech at your local ammo retailer or get it shipped fast at luckygunner.com.
Believe it or not, we're actually doing this as a fundraiser right now for a ministry that rescues underage girls out of sex trafficking, and we will finish that up at the end of this month at our national conference. And you know what? The kids dig this. You know who really likes this? Even more than that, my mother. And guess what? My mom is more important to me than you are, so the hair stays. Thank you very much. Okay, so my name is John Correa. I'm the founder and owner of Active Self-Protection. I'm going to do something a little bit different here today, and I am probably going to rustle your jimmies a little bit and frustrate you. If you don't leave this frustrated at all, I have not done my job, because I think we're all probably on the same page here in terms of what we believe about the right to keep and bear arms. I would argue I am one of the most Second Amendment absolutist people that I know. And I'm a Second Amendment absolutist enough that even my Second Amendment supporting friends go, "Oh, John, that's a lot. That's too much." And I go, no, I'm the guy that says, no, I should be able to get an M249 delivered by Amazon Prime. Okay, fine. However, I also want to recognize this. I work every single day. If you don't know what I do, I am a self-defense and firearms instructor here out of Phoenix, and I teach every day via 2 YouTube channels. So we also travel the country and teach in those things, but every day, what I'm known for, people send me real-life surveillance videos of actual defensive encounters that real people get into, and I do after-action reports on them. And we post a new one every single day on our big channel, Active Self-Protection. We got a little over 3 million subscribers. We get somewhere between 10 and 50 million views a month. The channel has somewhere in the order of 1.5 billion lifetime channel views. It's kind of nuts. It's not my job that I'm supposed to do. My full-time gig before this was I was a pastor here in the Valley. And before that, I worked in retail management. And before that, I made hot water the hard way in Uncle Sam's Canoe Club. Okay? If you want to say the impressive way, I was a nuclear reactor operator on board a aircraft carrier. But really, I was Homer Simpson. Okay? But I work on the front lines every day of the right to keep and bear arms. I work on the front lines every day, reaching people via YouTube who don't understand firearms. And I'll tell you what, we do it in a very different way. And I'm going to challenge you today to think in a different way about how do I reach somebody else and help and build people's understanding of the right to keep and bear arms. And I get it. We're at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. I give a crap about guns, frankly. I don't even consider myself a gun guy. I'm only interested in firearms because they're the best tool currently available to protect myself from criminal violence. When they invent Star Trek phasers, I'd rather have a phaser. It'll be more better. And I'm down with that. If they invent something that's more effective, I want that too, which is why we have the right to keep and bear arms, not guns. Whatever the best thing is, we'll do that. And listen, my thing to you is that one of the ways that we work, and I get these comments all the time on YouTube, and man, some people, quite frankly, on YouTube, I tell people, get off my team. Because they're bad for us. And other folks, I say, hey, wait a minute, we agree with the same things. Now, I'm going to guess that you and I probably disagree about some things politically, and that's okay. We believe in the right to keep and bear arms together, and that's great. I'm kind of a wackadoodle libertarian personally. My company only has one political position: the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Me, I got all kinds of positions. You probably disagree with some, and that's okay. But how do you talk to somebody who is not in the right to keep and bear arms? I'm telling you, I get comments every day on YouTube that says, John, I hate guns, but I really appreciate what you do on this channel. Because I get to see real people actually defend themselves. And honestly, when you see somebody who is victimized by criminal violence, we recently had one on the channel of, a 30-year-old Hispanic woman who was 9 months pregnant who drew a gun and shot a guy that was threatening her with a gun. And I said, hallelujah, she saved her own life that day and the life of her baby. And this is a very good thing. And people who are in a specifically vulnerable population need effective tools. I'm a large-framed man. There's not a whole lot of guys that are going to overpower me. I got 16 years of martial arts study. I'm not saying I can win a lot of fights. I'm saying I'm hell in a fight, and I'll make you pay retail for it at least. At the end, at least I want to go, gosh, man, it was really hard to kick your butt. Okay, cool. That's great. But I'm not always going to be that way. And when I'm 85 years old, I still have the same right to protect myself as I do today. And you know what? Here's the funny part. My wife is I jokingly call her a crunchy, pot-smoking, witch hippie granola eater. Okay? To which my wife says, I don't smoke pot. Okay, my wife is a midwife, and she's a home birth midwife, and so that means crunchy and granola eating and all that stuff, right? And guess what? My wife is also able to pass the FBI pistol qualification on demand. Now, when we first got to married, my wife and I grew up in California. I didn't grow up in a gun home. We had some guns. My dad had a duck hunting shotgun, but that was it, and we never really talked about guns. We didn't think about guns. I grew up in the Bay Area. My wife was scared of guns. I will never forget when my wife and we got married after I joined the Navy, and we were in San Diego stationed there, and my upstairs neighbor was a Customs and Border Patrol agent at the time. He's one of my best friends on earth. He runs our podcast now. And Mike had his service pistol out in pieces on the coffee table, cleaning it, because he's a federal cop. This is what he does, right? He was cleaning his gun. My wife came up to see what we were doing, and we were just sitting up there, joshing around. She came up there, saw the gun in pieces, and had a legit panic attack. A legit panic attack seeing the pieces of a gun in a room. Today, my wife, again, carries a gun and can pass the FBI pistol qualification on command. Well, how did she make that change? She didn't make the change because I disdained her. She didn't make the change because I forced her to do anything. I get people all the time that ask me, John, how do I get my wife to carry a gun? You know the answer to that is? You don't. You respect her as an adult. You open doors for her, and you let her have her own agency and bear her own choices. And in doing that, then my wife eventually wanted to take an interest in what her husband took an interest in. And when we started having guns in the house, she said, man, I at least got to know how to be safe with these. And because she's my partner, she got safe with them, and then she got more interested. And now, I wouldn't call her a gun person, but she does some of that. And I get those comments on YouTube every day. And I want to encourage you with a couple of things. Number one, I want to encourage you that nobody ever gets disdained into changing their mind. And so when you're posting on your social media, lambasting the libs and the lefties, and telling people how terrible they are and how emotional, that you're the logical one and they're the emotional one, you're not making any friends. Anybody here ever read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? If you haven't read it in the last 5 years, please reread that book. Because you're not going to win any friends, and you're certainly not going to win any arguments if you're not willing to make friends. And that means making friends with people who disagree with you politically. That means being able to sit around the Thanksgiving table with crazy Uncle Charlie. And crazy Uncle Charlie, who lives in Seattle and is a rabid gun control supporter. And if you can't go, I love you, Uncle Charlie. Pass the potatoes, please. And Uncle Charlie goes, I don't think anybody should have guns. And you go, it's an interesting suggestion, Uncle Charlie. Can I have the gravy too, please? And just be a friend. You're not going to make strides, guys. You're just not. Here's the thing that I want you to think about, okay? Here's an interesting part. If you're going to make strides with people, yes, we got to vote. Okay, fine. Right now, we're winning in courts. And I'm loving to see this stuff, man. Since brewing, I'm like, we are on a roll. I love it. Now, we're not winning everything. We're losing some. But, Moss, you'd agree with me. We're making some waves and winning some stuff. And it's fun to see. But guess what? We got to make more strides in the trenches every day with your neighbors, with your friends in the office, with the people at church, with the neighbors down the street, with the folks at the PTA meeting. Now, I ask you, again, so my wife and I homeschooled for 12 years, and then we put our kids in public school as a personal decision. I know I lose some real conservative evangelicals when I say that. Oh, I went back to public school. We did, and my kids' teachers were amazing humans, and we loved them all. And we got invested in their lives. Heck, I've even taken a couple of them shooting. Public school teachers who love my children. Not all of them wanted that, Some of them were very skeptical of me, especially the ones that found out who I was. They bring me in to talk to the kids because the kids like to see a YouTube star, which is weird to say, but okay. When your teenager's like, this is my dad, he's a YouTube celebrity. It's kind of weird. But then they go, wait a minute, what do you do? Oh, you don't have a gun on you, do you? I'm like, man, we're living in the state of Arizona. That would be a high-level misdemeanor, and I'm certainly not going to admit that to you. Notice I worded that carefully. However, you got to meet people where they are, and I'm going to ask you a question today. Again, yes, vote. Yes, support causes. I'm a member of all these organizations too, because I want them to keep doing the work and filing the lawsuits and making sure that our rights to keep and bear arms are protected, but not just for me, for everyone, for people who disagree with me. And to do that, you got to meet them where they are. So I ask you this, are you a bridge builder or a gatekeeper? Now, if your answer is, well, anybody's always willing to come shooting with me, I'm always open, everyone's willing to come my way, that is not bridge building, that is gatekeeping. They're willing to come to me, and if they meet my standards, they can come into my place. Bridge building means I go to them. It means, to quote from my friend Tiffany Johnson and Akil Kadir, that I don't meet them halfway, I meet them farther than that. I go all the way to them and start talking from there. And I recognize that they are not evil people, that they make moral decisions on the same foundations I do, but they use different applications of those. Let me encourage you. You want a great book to read? It's not out here for sale that I saw, but I can't recommend enough. If you want to have your mind blown a little bit, read a book by a social psychologist named Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. It is called The Righteous Mind. A fantastic book about how all people make moral decisions. You and everyone else. 3 big parts of that book. Part number 1 is that our moral decisions are first intuitive, that nobody is rational. And if you've been on social media, you agree with that. Nobody makes decisions rationally. We all make decisions intuitively, and then strategic reasoning comes later. He makes this great analogy that we are like an elephant with a rider on it. And our intuition is the elephant, and our rationality is the rider. And the rider can nudge the elephant, but sometimes that elephant's going where it wants to go. Would you agree with me that's how you make decisions? Now you go, I don't agree with you. Read the book. Because you do, and I know you think, I make rational decisions. No, you don't, and that's the first problem. And it's okay, that's not how the human brain works. You have to make snap decisions quickly in order to survive sometimes. And that's how our brains are built to function. And quite frankly, that's the case. I don't even care what your understanding of human origins is, okay? Mea culpa, I'm a Jesus guy. I was a pastor for 14 years. But whether you believe that humans are built in the image of God and created specially by Him, or the product of millions of years of evolution, guess what? The brain that you have is perfectly conditioned to keep you alive. And the way that it does that is making snap decisions and judging intuitively quickly, which is why, who's my attorneys in the room? Okay, you ever have, especially if you're in criminal court, you ever have somebody and the jury walks in and sees your client and they just go, that guy's guilty. And you go, wait a minute, we're going to lay out this wonderful, beautiful, logical, case. Doesn't matter. They already made a decision about him. Happens. You got to meet people where they are, though, if you're going to make a change with them and if you're going to help them to get better. How do you do that? Recognize that they are using, now Haidt's argument is that there are 6 moral foundations from which all people make moral decisions. I'm not going to ruin the book for you, but I'd strongly recommend you read it, and different groups make those, and they base their decisions on different amounts and factors of those 6 moral foundations. And so guess what that means for your gun control people in your world? They're not devil-worshiping evil people. They just use a different matrix to make moral decisions. And the second that you can recognize, I recognize that you're a good person with good intent. I just disagree with you. And once you can dig down and find the moral foundations that they're making their decisions on, now you can have a discussion. Because when they say we have to take care of our kids, and I've heard this, and it just makes me so mad when they go, you're into guns and you love guns more than children. Of course, we all look at that and we go, that's repugnant. Agreed? Right? You've heard that, right? And you go, that's just terribly repugnant. I love my children. I know you love yours. And so we get mad when it gets done to us, yet we turn around and do it to them. Remember a guy one time said something about how I treat other people. And it was so important it got written down in a book. It's been repeated a time or two. I'm not sure who said it, but something about doing to others the way that you would have them do unto you. I know I've read that somewhere. Can anybody refresh my memory? Well, that's right. Jesus Christ said that. And so we got to lead the way. Now, I get it. You say, but wait a minute, they're mean and nasty and ugly, and so I'm just returning serve at them. Hey, man, if that's the way you're going to go, we're just going to retreat to our sides and throw rocks across the ravine. Instead, I try to follow the example of my king that says, okay, I understand why you would say that. I disagree with that. What's your big idea is that you love children. Yes, I love that. I absolutely value the same thing you do, and I honor that value that you have. Well, wait a minute then. How could you possibly love guns? That's an interesting and strong discussion, but I absolutely value what you're doing here. And I totally agree with you that we need to keep our children safe and that I love kids too. I totally agree with you there. Tell me, how do you express that in your everyday life? I totally value that. Well, wait a minute, John. You know that in the inner city, the minorities in America are being ravaged with gun violence, and that's a terrible thing. Man, so what I'm hearing from you is that you love the outcast and the oppressed and the marginalized and the disenfranchised, and that you want them to be full participants in the American dream. Is that what I'm hearing from you? Yes, I agree. I 100% agree. We are 100% on the same page. Do you know how disarming it is? Then all of a sudden we're not sitting across the table fighting. We're sitting on the same side of the table, and they go, like, you ever, you see like the videos online of a dog that doesn't understand what's going on, and they go. You ever had, if you want to short circuit someone's brain, understand their moral foundations and where they're coming from. For my friends who, again, follow Jesus like I do, I do the same thing from a religious perspective with other religions. Tell me about why that's important to you. Tell me where that comes from. I'd love to do that. But listen, here's the thing. That only comes when you're sitting having a meal with somebody. That only comes when, you're going over to the new neighbor and you're bringing them a plate of cookies and saying, welcome to the neighborhood. That only happens with people that you don't necessarily agree with. Because if you say, you know what, you're wrong about this issue and you're evil and you're less than. And if you change, you should change because I'm right on this issue. And you know that old adage the lawyers say, right? If you have the facts, pound the facts. If you have the law, pound the law. If you have neither, pound the table. And I know my gun rights friends, they go, man, I have the facts on my side. And now we've got even more understanding. We got the law on our side. And frankly, when you got both, it's time to be kind. Because here's the thing. I've heard this weekend that, we don't want to fight, we want to win. But what do we want to win? I don't want to win fights. I don't even want to win lawsuits. I want to win people. I want to win folks to understand that the right to keep and bear arms is a civil right. That it's enshrined in our Constitution, second, for a reason. I don't value my Second Amendment rights more than any other right in the Bill of Rights, and I hope you don't either. In fact, I value my First Amendment rights even more. The most near and dear right to me is the right to free worship. And I don't care how you worship. I just don't want the government to tell you you can't. And you're like, well, I don't worship. Listen, I grew up as an atheist worshiping Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers at the church of Al Frank and Dan. Anybody old enough to remember the old Monday Night Football announcing crew? That's what's up. Okay? And I don't want anybody to tell me how to worship or that I can't worship. I want the right. I don't want the government to be able to throw me in jail for what I say. And so I want every single civil right for every single person, and I want to help them to see that too. And you're only going to do that by making individual friends, by understanding that again, Aunt Marge, though she is a little crazy, and that she sees things different than you, she's not an evil person. And even those who disagree with us most stridently, here's one. Okay, I'm just going to say this for my Arizona friends. I said I was going to kick some people in the teeth, and I see it. Okay, do you doubt why Gabby Giffords does not like guns? You're a fool not to understand her point of view from her personal experience, right? That was just 2 hours down the road from here. And so to say, Gabby, I get it, but let's talk about how our shared values can help us. Please hear me. Read the book and go on the front lines and make a difference with somebody by connecting with them as a human being rather than yelling at them across the divide. Be a bridge builder, not a gatekeeper. God bless you, everybody.